Hi, hello, I'm Sam Harrison. I read, review, and discuss fantasy and science fiction books. Today, we are going to be picking the 10 best books of 2023. I've got with me Ross and Laura from Hardy's Books.
Hello,
Hi.
Sam. Can I
Uh,
just say, since you last had us on, we've gained like about 500 subs or something like that. So basically, you have the Midas touch.
Yep.
I think if
mm,
anyone wants to get, followers on YouTube, they got to come on your show. This is where it's at. This is the place
This is the place to
to
be.
find your community.
what was that rom-com movie where either the man or woman would date someone directly before the person that they ended up marrying?
If it wasn't released in 2023,
We
not
don't
relevant
care.
today.
We don't care.
I think it was starring Dane Cook and it came out in the 2000s.
Dane Kirk, man, that's a
Ooh.
name I haven't heard in a while.
Yeah. He
Let's
tweets
move
some
my
weird stuff,
computer
just
forward.
FYI. So today we are doing a fantasy and science fiction books draft. All of the books that we'll be drafting today came out in 2023. The goal is that each player is competing to try and pick the best list of 10 books. And players take turns in a snake draft style, which means that the first person gets one pick, then the second person gets a pick, then the third person gets two, and the order reverses. So it kind of goes 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1. Hope that makes sense for everyone.
Two is automatically at a disadvantage. And I'm just pointing this out because we already did the randomized draft pick. And would you guess who's got number two?
Wow, she's already making excuses. I wasn't expecting that.
But the thing is, Ross did get a first pick, but you get to pick two books before he gets to pick his second. So you can be like, oh, Ross may have got the best fantasy book of the year, but I can get the best sci-fi and self-pub book. So
Fine.
Yeah.
basically,
I'll
I'm a
say,
little bit
yeah.
competitive.
I will just say, I've also competitive over here. I've watched Moneyball in preparation for this. My list has Chris Pratt on. No, it doesn't. No. But
I don't think he
let's
was
just say,
released in 2023.
yeah. Let's just say, I think that my list is like, if I had to pick a football team that would correspond well, as in soccer ball for you
Oh yeah.
Americans, I would probably pick a Bayer Leverkusen. It's a really well balanced team, well managed. I think is gonna win unbeaten. So yeah, there we go.
Laura and
I'll
I
pull
were
up
still
Sam's
doing our
list now.
research 10 minutes before the recording started, so
I was still researching when these two were like doing mic tests.
Again with making excuses. Right, come on, Sam. Let's get this
yes.
game underway.
This
I want to win.
guy.
I'm going to finish off quickly explaining the rules for the audience.
Yeah,
So
that's probably a good idea. Yeah.
Yeah,
uh,
I still don't really understand.
each person will take a turn to choose a category and then draft a book that fits the theme of that category. If one player picks a book, it is unavailable to other players in any category. Players will continue to draft until all have picked all 10 categories.
In any category.
Yeah, so for example, if you picked, like, if we were doing like a 2000s draft and you picked Mad Ship for your nautical fantasy, that would mean that nobody could pick that in any other category.
Yeah.
Oh no, he's gonna ruin it. He's gonna.
I don't know. I'm not necessarily going to ruin it. I was going to ruin it. My first list was definitely going to ruin it in that regard. But my second list is much more balanced and less trollish.
Anyway, sorry, Sam, I interrupted. Continue explaining the rules.
That's quite all right. Supplemental rules. Indie published books that are picked up by traditional publishing houses can count in either the year they were indie published or the year they were trad published. If there is a disagreement on whether a book fits a rule, then the other two players can decide whether they think it's a fair, or if you've picked a book and you're like, this is a bit dicey as to whether it's a nautical book, but a main element of it is a boat ride or something, then you two guys would decide whether you thought it was an appropriate pick or not. But you also have to think that if you give someone leeway, and then later on you might want leeway. So there's a bit of tactics involved.
Yeah.
The categories are
Yeah.
as follows: fantasy, science fiction, written by Brandon Sanderson, indie or self-published, paperback released, female author, author of colour, queer author, nautical themed fantasy, and book with a dragon in it. Now, Ross, you are going first, so if you'd like to pick your first
Yep.
category.
Okay, so I've printed mine off because I don't want Laura snooping at them. The first
Can you
category,
believe this guy?
the first category I'm going to pick is the Brandon Sanderson book,
Mhm.
and I'm going to pick Tress of the Emerald Sea.
You such a troll.
Ross
There are
smartly
others,
taking that
but-
off the board for nautical fantasy as well.
Basically,
Mother. Ugh.
everyone agrees of all the secret projects, this is the highest quality one. I just think that I'm going to take advantage of that first spot and put down a really strong. I'm putting my settlement next to some brick and some wood, and I'm hoping to get those 6 and 8 rolls.
Excellent. I really love
Laura,
Tress of the
you're up.
Emerald Sea. Have you guys both read it?
No, neither of us
No.
have.
It's
I
quite
will say-
late. It's quite
I'm
late in the
probably the
Cosmere, but it's great.
Yeah.
It is really good.
Okay. I'm probably the outlier in terms of Brandon Sanderson. In terms of YouTubers that I'm not that into Brandon Sanderson. I don't get that hyped by his books. I've read I've read Mistborn, obviously. Oh, we got a thumbs up there from FaceTime. Read Mistborn, obviously. I've read first 2 Stormlights, but that's as far as my Brandon Sanderson experience goes. Laura,
Why isn't it doing it for me?
I don't know. Laura,
It is
we
your
got
turn to
30
pick a
books to get
category.
through. Yeah, you can pick a category.
Okay, I would like to pick.
Okay.
And I am going to pick one that's going to make our lovely friend Mare very happy. The Will of the Many by James Islington.
Yeah.
Oh,
I figured that was coming.
that was
That was-
my fantasy top pick as well.
Yeah. Also mine. So I mean, just goes to show what a great book that was.
I'm playing to win, you see.
Yeah.
So I know that Mare is going to be voting for the winner.
That's true.
Oh, and if Mare,
Not exclusively, more than just Mare.
love you,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
babe.
So now it's down to me to look at
Yeah.
what I've got. Now, I haven't read Will of the Many, obviously. It's actually not next. It's the next book that I'm planning to read after my next book. So I'm excited to join everyone in the loving club. But for my
It's great. Sorry. Anyway, go ahead.
for my first pick, I am going to go for. Do you know what? I've got 2 picks, haven't I? So I will pick 2. I'm going to go for sci-fi. And I'm going to
Yeah.
pick Lightbringer by Pierce
I
Brown.
figured that was coming as well.
Hang on. I didn't realise that came out in 2023.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, no,
what?
not
You mean
Brent
the
Weeks.
Red Rising?
Red Rising
category?
sequel.
Okay.
So I have enjoyed the first 3 Red Rising books that I've read, and most people say Lightbringer is the best book in the series. And when I asked loads of booktubers what their favourite book of 2023 were, it was basically a split down the middle between Will of the Many and Lightbringer. So I feel like Lightbringer is an easy first round pick. I'm taking it off the board before Ross picks it. I don't know whether that was on your list.
I actually took it off my list because I decided that I hated Red Rising too much.
I never put it on my
to
list.
justify. No, you never even. But it was very much. I think that was a free pick for you, Sam. Basically.
Damn, I should have held out.
Yeah.
But also my other sci-fi picks I was a lot less confident on. So as we're doing the snake draft, I get to have a second shot. And I am going to pick. I've gone for a head pick with Lightbringer, and I'm going to go for a heart pick with one of my favourite books of all time, Of War and Ruin, for the indie / self-pub category.
I figured that was also coming. I also figured that was coming. Yeah.
So
Fair enough.
this is the only book where I was like, Goodreads doesn't offer enough stars for me to rate this book.
Wow.
It's
words.
It's like 1,500 pages long, and I said in the review, which is a terrible review because I recorded it like one of my first videos, But I said in the review, like, this is a 6-star book in my eyes. Like,
What it's by, Sam?
so it's by Ryan Carhill.
Uh-huh.
It's indie published. He put out basically a like 1,000-page book every year for 3 years, plus a novella each year. Because he's
right.
yeah, he has actually delayed book 4 in his series because he doesn't want it to come out at the same time as Stormlight, which originally it was going to. Which gives everyone time to read and catch up. It's heavily inspired by Wheel of Time, which makes a lot of sense why I also have been loving Wheel of Time. But yeah, I feel like it's kind of broken out onto it in its own in the same way that Wheel of Time broke away from Lord of the Rings after book 1. So yeah,
Yeah.
big, huge fan, and I don't think I could have put this list together without that on the list. Although I did have 2 great backups. So Laura, it's now your draft.
Okay, I would like to go for a book I hadn't actually heard of before I started researching for this video. So I'd like to thank you, Sam, for bringing this book to my attention, albeit tangentially, which is a book called I Keep My Exoskeletons to Myself by Marissa Crane.
What's the category?
Queer author.
Oh, very good.
So Marissa Crane, she, they.
Yeah.
And it's just that. So the description that I read is, what if Winston Smith from 1984 was actually like charismatic?
Because he is a real like damp squib.
Yeah, it just looks so interesting. It looks like a really cool book. Department of Speculation meets Black Mirror. About a queer mother raising her daughter in an unjust surveillance state. It just sounds so cool.
It sounds great.
I'm gonna go and buy it as soon as we end this video because I just think it sounds fascinating.
That is dead cool.
So yeah, Marissa Crane. It's a finalist for the Lambda Literary Award as well. That's my pick for queer author.
Ooh.
I think one of the interesting things about these lists is that you can see like the drama of someone picks the will of the many or whatever, but then there's also the like, oh, we all actually want to go and read this book now.
Yeah.
So Ross, pick number 2 for you.
Yeah. So I got 2 picks now as well. So I'm going to go for my paperback release. Sorry, Laura, I'm going for Sea of Tranquility.
Oh, that was on my list too.
That
Sorry.
was the one I was going for.
I'm sorry. It's a fantastic book. It's a whole new take on, well, I guess it's a really inventive take on time travel. Emily St. John Mandel, just the scene smith, you know, she creates these pictures in words that stick with you for your entire life. And Sea of Tranquility is full of them. And yeah, so definitely extremely highly recommend that one. So that's my paperback release. So I'm gonna go for I'm gonna what should I pick next?
That was actually on my paperback list as well. It was not my number 1. And I was convinced, Ross, that you were going to pick my number 1.
Well, there's no point in me asking you.
Well, I've got a theory. Okay, so I'm going to pick my dragon book.
Oh my goodness. You pick.
No, I'm not going to pick the one you're thinking of. I'm going to pick Dragonfired by J. Zachary Pike.
Okay, that's fine.
Who is the author of Orconomics, and very well known for his humor, and sort of seen a bit as like this one of the kind of spiritual successors of a certain Mr. Terry Pratchett. So to be honest, it is an absolute travesty that I haven't read any of his books yet. I believe also didn't Orconomics. I feel like Orconomics did well in Spiffbo.
Yeah, I don't think it won, but I think it was a finalist.
Yeah. So again, a very highly rated author. Dragonfired, I believe it's the second in the series. Although if anyone wants to correct me in the comments, please go ahead. And I assume that it has a dragon in it because it's in the title, and I think that's enough to qualify it. So
I think Orconomics got trad published as well, didn't it?
I believe it did. Yeah, yeah. Which is very good. always encouraging to see for authors who are writing comedy fantasy books.
Mm,
That Trad Publishing has still got room for them.
yeah. And Laura, I think it's you up next.
Okay, what one should I go for next?
I feel like I
I'm
need to
going to go for my self-published book now, which is another one that I'd not heard of. So again, thank you, Sam. And this is one called Thrill Switch by Tim Hawkin.
Hey everyone, Editing Sam here. So I just want to disregard this pick by Laura, because this book actually, when editing and researching this video, I found out that Thrill Switch by Tim Hawkin actually came out in 2022. In fact, January 1st, 2022. So please disregard this pick. It is disqualified.
And it's apparently is like a cross between Ready Player One and Silence of the Lambs.
Ooh,
Now those are some comp titles.
yeah.
I don't know how I feel about it, but I am fascinated. But it's got really good reviews, so yeah.
Well, give us a little. What's it about?
Detective Ada Byron is pumped to be assigned to her first murder case until she sees the crime scene. Someone has been killed exactly the same way as her father 7 years earlier.
Ooh.
But impossibly, he died using VR, and the programmer responsible is in prison.
Oh, snap!
Mm.
Dun dun dun!
I mean, Ready Player One stitched with Silence of the Lambs is a pretty exciting way to pitch a book.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Thank you, by the way, both of you, for leaving the indie slot wide open for me. Basically an open goal. Looking forward to scoring it.
Oh,
Anyway,
yeah.
Sam.
Okay, so
Oh, bloody hell. I just realised what I could have used. Oh, shit.
interestingly, Ross, I think also that book could qualify for paperback if you were going to really gamesman it, because it was released at the same time in hardback and paperback.
I could have gamed that, yeah.
You could have
no,
gamed it.
anyway, we're not on that yet.
I'm
Sam.
going to pick my paperback, and I'm going to go for Ashes of Man by Christopher Rocchio.
You know what? It wasn't on my list.
Really? I thought that would be very high, seeing as you're so big on the Rocchio.
I'm big on the Rocchio, but
haven't read this one yet, have you?
Huh?
You've not read this one yet, actually, have you?
No, I have. I've read this one. I've read all the way up to this one. Still got Disquiet Gods to go, but yeah, no, this one is
I've heard great things about this one, and while I'm only on book 3 in Sun Eater, I do own a copy of Ashes of Man, which is better than a lot of the books on this list, which I don't own copies of.
Buy some shells.
For God's sake.
I can see plenty of wall space behind you.
They've got lovely photos on. So yeah, obviously Sun Eater is like the big booktube darling. This is a semi-tactical vote on my part. I'm sure I will enjoy it, but I was like, this is me trying to win some votes and get tactical because people love Sun Eater. So I'm going for that one. And then for author of colour, I'm going to go for Blood Over Brighthaven by NL Wang.
Oh, very
good.
Yeah, the author of The Sword of Kaigan, which I have bought a copy of, but I'm waiting for it to be sent. It should be sent next month. I got the Pasian Wicks Fancy Edition, and they were like, it's printing in June.
No, we've got it coming too. We've also got it coming.
Do we?
Yeah.
Okay.
So Blood Over Brighthaven is it's set in the same world. I actually don't know anything about this book apart from that I want to read it, and I tend to, with most books, be like, I'm good, I will just wait for the book to come into my hands, basically. So this one is kind of a mix of dark academia with mystery, and people are saying that it's for fans of Leigh Bardugo, V.E. Schwab, and Full Metal Alchemist. So several of those things are pretty exciting. Yeah, looking forward to reading this one. I am going to read this. A very high Goodreads rating, 4.5. So
Wow. That we
think
know
that's a
that's
decent
always
book.
going on about Sword of Kaigen.
I mean,
Everyone.
But who in particular? I feel like there's some. It's going to be Mare,
Patrick
isn't
loves it.
Patrick Leo definitely he loves it. I mean, in terms of our circles, I mean, Andrew Watson, big fan.
Okay.
I mean, anyone who's read it loves
Maybe
it.
it's you, Sam.
Maybe it's you, Sam.
It might be
well,
you.
no, he hasn't read it yet.
I haven't read it
You've
yet.
read Sword of Kaigen, haven't you?
No, I'm holding off until I get my
Oh.
Page and Wick edition. I want to
Yeah.
read from my fancy rainbow edition.
Oh, okay.
But
Sorry, I was like, half listening.
Laurie, prepping for your draft, which coincidentally is right now. Laurie, your turn.
Okay, I'm going to go for female author, and I'm going to go for a book that looks absolutely fascinating, called Translation State by Anne Leckie. Leckie?
That was
Lecky,
my
I think.
sci-fi pick.
Was it?
Oh.
So I've got to pick another one now. Very good.
Yeah, looks fascinating. Yeah, what can I say about it? I'm just quickly skim reading the.
I can tell you, I wanted to read Ancillary Justice.
That looks amazing.
Particularly, I was kind of doing for a while. I was interested in making a video about sci-fi takes on gender.
Yeah,
and
that's when I
Ancillary
became aware of Anne Leckie.
Let's go with Leckie.
Leckie.
Yeah.
It's because she has really interesting takes on gender.
Yeah.
And Ancillary Justice looks absolutely fascinating, and it's really high on my TBR. And then I saw that she had just released this new book, Translation State, in 2023, and was like, "Yep, that's easy slot into my female author."
Very good.
Draft.
Very good.
That was on my sci-fi top list as well. That was my number 2 on mine, and it was purely because I know people who've read Ancillary Justice and absolutely loved it. So I was like, it's time.
Yeah.
But yeah,
You
Ross.
need to do your video. You need to do your video.
Yeah, I'll do it. I'll do it at some point. Right. Where are we? Okay. Don't look at this. Bits.
Why is it in like size 20 font?
Because I printed it straight from Notion.
You need glasses.
I like that he's got 2 pages. That shows you mean business.
So I get to pick 2.
Yep.
So I kind of feel like I need to be a bit tactical here. Okay, so I'm going for queer author. I have chosen In the Lives of Puppets by TJ Klune, who is asexual, and says that asexuality is a big part of, I believe his pronouns are he, him, his book, and his book. So very big book. Could have put it in the sci-fi list, I think. I've heard that it's very sci-fi, but I wanted to use this moment to highlight one of the kind of less often mentioned identities in the LGBTQIA spectrum. That's I think we don't really talk about asexual identity enough, and so that's what I wanted to pick for that section. And next,
rampant cheating going
on. Okay, what should I choose next? Okay, so I'm going for female author. I have chosen The Woman in Me by Britney Spears.
So,
Goodreads Choice Award winner for Best Memoir and Autobiography 2023. Critics say it's a no holds barred cutting account of her life.
He's not even joking.
Raised a number of important questions about people who are involved in her life and their complicity in the trauma that she has faced. Looking at you, Justin Timberlake. And basically everyone I've heard who's read it loves it. So that is my female author pick.
So here's the thing. I think we established quite early on that this was a science fiction and fantasy draft.
Oh, we didn't establish that. No.
Previously on 24.
So today we are doing a fantasy and science fiction books draft. Uh, I mean, I'm
Are you
tempted
gonna
to
let it pass?
I'm tempted to let you have it for how funny it is.
Are you gonna force
but
me back into choose another one? Does it need to be sci-fi fantasy?
I mean, that was the entire concept of the draft.
Okay, fine. God, I thought that was a really strong pick. Jeez, bastard.
Leave Brenny alone, please.
I would say, while I think it's a strong pick, the Goodreads rating is below 4, which I see as
Goodreads
bad.
ratings mean jack.
I don't think
Wait, hold on,
either
we're
of you
swearing
just
on
got
these
my
videos.
Chris Crockett.
No, I don't.
Oh, we got it, yeah.
Yeah.
We were there. We were there.
Chris Crockett? Chris Crocker? I can't remember his name.
I don't know who the person is, but I know the quote.
Okay, so female author, I'm picking Fourth Wing, Rebecca Yarros. Enough said.
Chris Crocker. Just in case either of you cared.
Okay, I remember that video very fondly. Oh, they've transitioned. She's transitioned. Hey.
Okay, not Chris Crocker. We're not using that name anymore. She is now Cara Cunningham.
This is
that's
how
a
we
nice
found
name.
out. Good
Yeah.
time.
That's
Good
interesting. So yes, Fourth Wing is allowed.
Fourth Wing.
Anyway.
Female author, Fourth Wing. There we go.
Fourth
you can pick
Wing
it
was
yourself.
on my Dragons book backup list. It was very low down the list, but it was there. Laura, it is your
yeah.
draft.
Sorry, I'm just
When are we
reading
all
up
reading
on-
Fourth Wing together? That's the big question.
Well, I thought you were mood reading, Sam. So when you're feeling horny for dragons, let's crack it open.
I'm going to go for my nautical book,
Mm.
which is The Adventures of Amina Al-Sarifi.
That's a good choice.
Was
really
that
strong-
also your choice, Sam? Yeah,
Now,
I thought it might have been.
I was like, I need to nail this down, and I completely forgot the last time around and went for something that no one else would have picked.
By Shannon Chakraborty.
Really strong
Yeah,
choice.
so that's
Yeah.
2 of my nautical picks down.
I wanted to read. I really wanted to read City of Brass, but that's one of those ones that's been on the TBR for about 4 years.
Yeah.
It's getting pushed down.
Well, apparently, reading about the adventures of Amina Al-Sarifi,
Sirafi.
and I think it's a prequel to City of Brass.
Is it?
Yeah.
I didn't know it was related. I knew it was about a mother character, which is why
Yeah,
I was
it
interested in it. Because obviously there's barely any mums in fantasy, because they're
That's
all
travesty.
killed at the beginning of the book.
What about Murderous Mama Orca? Is Orca
Oh yeah,
a mum?
yeah, good.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Is
Um,
Orca a mum?
I haven't read
That's
it.
like part of a whole thing. You should
Yeah.
I
probably
didn't
read
know whether
it.
she just had mum energy or whether she was.
Third book's
no.
coming out soon, Ross. You better get on board.
Can't wait.
Have you pre-ordered it yet, Sam?
I think I actually have.
Yeah.
Shockingly.
We have.
So The Adventures of Amina Al-Sarafi, I'm not gonna lie, was on 3 of my lists. So that's it's really narrowed the field. I'm gonna go in. Oh, you guys have both picked queer author, so now I can hold off until the end and pick stuff that you haven't picked yet. I'm gonna go for. I'm gonna go for a book that I. No, I'm not gonna go for a book that I don't like, just because I think it will win points. I'm gonna pick God Killer by Hannah Kaner for female author.
Yeah.
Because Hannah Kaner is a fantastic social media Instagram follow. She genuinely posts lots of interesting and fun things. And the cover is fantastic. I absolutely was sold on this trilogy by the first 2 covers, and then found out what they were about and was even more interested.
What are they about for those who are uninitiated?
So basically, gods in God Killer are like they're like hated and despised and hunted, and the main character is a god killer who goes around to basically mop up small gods, and then she meets a god who is the god of white lies, and ends up having to then she ends up having to like kind of protect that god in the midst of a civil war and a demon attack. It is also, the tags on it are LGBT, queer, high fantasy. For Sanderson, I am going to draft the Sunlit Man, which is, if you are a mega Cosmere nerd who's like, well, this character from this book is obviously this person, and this person from this book is obviously this. It's like your favorite book of all time. It's like mega. It's mega Cosmere. It's mega connected. It's very, very like, if you are a Cosmere fan, this is probably your favorite Cosmere book, or one of. It's also Sanderson's first kind of crossover in his fantasy stuff into sci-fi. The book is very sci-fi. It's set on a tiny planet where the orbit is like an hour around the sun, but it's so close to the sun that anything that is in the sun's rays is like atomized and burned to a crisp. And the society lives in flying cities that are constantly in motion. And there's just loads of extremely cool sci-fi concepts in it. Some of the best world building Sanderson's done in forever in his books. And just a very interesting main character who I won't spoil. And just generally, like, it was a book that came to me at the wrong time. I read it when I had read 3 Sanderson books in a row, and I ended up giving it a 3-star. But of the Sanderson books from 2023, this is the one that I often think about. So Tress was definitely the best, without shadow of a doubt. But Sunlit Man was the one that had the most interesting content in it. So yeah, my second pick is going to be for the Sunlit Man. That, by the way, we are now over halfway through. There's only 4 categories left to pick.
I've got to work out which categories I haven't done yet.
Have you done Sanderson yet?
I did. Sanderson
That was your first pick, yeah.
Okay, so I don't have to do Sanderson for ages now because you've both done it. So it's not
Exactly,
like you're going to steal my last one.
No.
Okay, in that case, I'm going to do my paperback, which I think you've both already done.
We have, yeah.
But I'm still going to do my paperback because you've both ignored a really obvious, amazing book that came out in paperback in 2023, which is The Hunger of the Gods by John Gwynne.
That was my number 2 pick.
What the hell, guys?
One, I had Emily St. John Mandel. I felt that was stronger. So, but
weirdly,
no,
I picked a book that
very
I
good.
haven't read over a book that I have. And I loved Hunger of the Gods. Absolutely loved it. But it was my second pick. And I wonder if I just picked Ashes of Man to try and beat Ross at his own game.
Yeah.
And then he wasn't even going to pick it.
This is real mind game stuff
Yeah.
right here. You know, yeah.
Well, I've been reading Hunger of the Gods for months because I'm reading it slowly and ruminating in it and enjoying it and It's delicious, and I'm currently about 2/3 of the way through and absolutely loving every single second, and it's just the best.
It's one of those books that has real, like, I don't want this to end energy.
Yeah, honestly. I don't want to finish it until the day that Fury of the Gods released.
And then
day.
then binge read that an entire day. Just for Ross.
My list is extremely strong voters, just on the basis of the will of the many and the hunger of the gods.
Those are 2 very strong choices. But I think people will reflect on the lists and go, I want to pick the guy who chose the Britney Spears book. Anyway, so narrowing this down now, I would like to. So let's see, which ones haven't I done yet? Haven't I done yet? Sam, how many have I done?
We've all done 6, I believe. Have you done fantasy? I don't think you've done fantasy.
No, I haven't done fantasy.
I don't think you've done nautical, and I don't think you've done Author of Colour.
I've only done 5 because I went first, didn't I?
Yeah.
So I'm about to.
This is your 6 and 7.
My 6th and 7th. Okay. So for Author of Colour, I'd like to choose Chain Gang All Stars by Nana Kwame Adjei-Branya.
That's a good one.
So sort of kind of sci-fi-ish, so I think it counts. This is a book that I really want to read. How do I describe? I'm gonna read you the jacket blurb because it's been up here for a while. The popular and highly controversial program inside America's prison system. In packed arenas, watched by millions of live stream viewers, prisoners compete as gladiators for the ultimate prize, their freedom. That sounds pretty cool. Pretty Hunger Games, but harder and more social commentary. So I'm very keen to get to that one eventually. I've been pushing it back, but very cool book. And now for my fantasy book. I'm going to pick House of Open Wounds by Adrian Tchaikovsky.
Ooh.
Now, when
The fact that
we
you
met
didn't
him,
pick my number one, I was like, oh.
we met him recently at Fantasy in the Court, Goldsboro Fantasy in the Court, and he was basically saying, like, as people were going up to him to get House of Open Wounds signed, he said, and I heard him say this multiple times, "This is my best book." So on that basis,
Was
I
it
feel
his most recent publication?
no, he just did Alien Clay.
Oh.
And he's
Yeah.
just brought out City of Open Wounds, hasn't he? Has he done a sequel?
No, that's City of
Last Chances, yeah.
That was the one before that. So then House of
Oh
Open
right,
Wounds
this is the
was one up.
sequel, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I love Adrian Tchaikovsky. I haven't read enough of his work, but I am very, very keen to read this one just on the basis that if an author thinks it's their best work, that's exciting. You kind of want to see what do they think is their best work. Children of
Especially when
Time.
that author is Adrian freaking Tchaikovsky.
Yeah, and he writes a lot of books.
Yeah.
So that's my pick for fantasy.
It's
There we go.
definitely on my to read list. Not super high up, but I would like to get to something like that this year. I've not read anything by Tchaikovsky ever, so would really like to read something by him this year. Laura, you are up next.
Okay, I'm going to go for my sci-fi book, which is System Collapse by Martha Wells.
Yes.
That was my backup.
Figured
And
that was
also,
coming.
that was my number one female author pick, and then I was like, no, I don't like these books. I'm not going to pick them just because they're popular.
Oh, of course you don't like them.
You don't like Murderbot?
You're entitled to your wrong opinion.
I'm one of the 2 people on BookTube who do not like Murderbot.
Interesting. What don't you like about Murderbot?
All the books are the same plot structure.
That is... Are we allowed to swear on your channel?
Yes, absolutely.
That is absolute bollocks, Sam.
Bollocks is like a class 3 swear. You're all right.
Yeah.
You could probably say that in a junior school.
It said horse shit.
Yeah. No, basically, Matt from Matt's Fantasy Book Reviews. So I was reading the Murderbot books and being like, I'm enjoying each one less. As I go on, I'm enjoying it less than the one before. And he pointed out on his, he was like, all the plot structures are the same. And then he laid out the plot structure that I could then fit all of the books into. And I was like, oh. And it was like one of those glass shattering moments. I don't know if you've had it, where you're like, oh, now the glass is shattered.
It to me
and I can't.
at some length while I was reading and enjoying Murderbot. And I was like, thank you, Samuel. This is... Why are you here to ruin my day?
Sam
You asked for it. You asked for it.
Laura's ear as she's trying to just enjoy her drink.
I'm just there.
Did you know all the plots are the same?
I put it in spoiler chat and I said, don't click it. But if you clicked it, it's your fault.
Well, I really like Murderbot. And admittedly, I'm only on, I think, the 4th one, but I'm still really enjoying them. Even if they are all the same, they're very comforting comfort reads. And when I'm feeling sad, it's nice to go and spend some time with a socially awkward androgynous robot.
Androgynous android.
Yeah.
I do like that they're androgynous. I've always enjoyed that. Like,
yeah.
We don't need... That character does not need a gender. Why gender it?
Oh.
I would like to pose a decision to the group. Can a book about airships be pitched in the nautical fantasy book section. So
Can we discuss?
it's flying boats, if you think about it, and the wind is still a big factor. Those are my two things.
Yeah, I agree. The thing is, Laura just went. Didn't actually say any words. Should we let him have it?
I mean, it's got ship in the name, isn't it? Airship.
I think, to be honest, if he's choosing airships, he has to be really desperate. So I think let's just let him have it. You know.
Okay, so I'm going for my number 3 backup for nautical fantasy because all the others were taken, which is the Olympian Affair by Jim Butcher, which is the second book in his much maligned Cinder Spires trilogy about airship pirates and politics.
I could have given you one. What about Darkwater Daughter by H.M. Long?
I didn't find that in my research.
Write that down.
The Olympian Affair is a beloved by many fantasy. It's the second. It has a 4.38 rating on Goodreads, which you should allow to colour your opinion.
How many ratings?
6,000. The fate of the Cinder Spires may be decided by crossed swords in the next exhilarating fantasy adventure in the New York Times best-selling series of noble families, swordplay, and airships.
Is it really nautical?
I mean,
you could have quite easily used Darkwater Daughter by H.M. Long.
There's a lot of people saying things like fleets. Somebody says
fleets.
Somebody says the word sink. Someone else uses the term armada. I feel like this is basically nautical fantasy. It's just a bit higher up. It's elevated nautical fantasy. It's elevated nautical fantasy. That's why I deserve to win this draft.
Okay, we'll give it to you, Sam, but let it be stated for the record, voters, that we don't think that this really counts as a nautical. Do you?
There's not much out here.
I mean,
there's not much out here for the who had my other two double picks.
To a much better book.
Darkwater Daughter, and it rhymes, which is fun.
That is quite good.
I hope you can hear on the recording my furious typing. As I'm trying to find the. Yeah, this would have been a good pick.
Yeah, this was my number 3 backup after Tress of the Emerald Sea and.
Al-Farafi. I should have gone straight in for that because it was the weakest of all of my pick lists. Anyway,
tough category.
So I have a second draft coming up, and I am going to go for fantasy. I'm going to pick The Tyranny of Faith by Richard Swan, which was.
I figured this was.
I figured you would.
Yeah, I saw this came out last year, and I thought Sam's going to pick it. Yeah,
Justice of Kings was my second choice for paperback.
Was it?
Both the Justice of Kings and Tyranny of Faith are like absolute 5-star beloved by me books. I love the world, I love the characters, I really like the perspective of the book in that you don't follow the like big historical figure in the book, you know. It's like how in The Dragon Reborn, the Wheel of Time book, you don't actually, you know, you follow Rand, but he's not the POV. He's not a POV in that book. And Conrad von Volt, who is ostensibly the most important character in the world of the series, is not the main character. You're following his young female assistant, which I find extremely interesting.
Yeah.
The horror elements are incredible, and they're really, really turned up a notch in Tyranny of Faith. So if you are into your Lovecraftian-esque kind of horror of one of the things in the world of the Justice of Kings and the Empire of the Wolf is that the kind of the beings that inhabit their afterlife are so massive and so overwhelming that like they barely notice that humanity exists on the plane of existence that they're on. And there's also some incredibly named demon. There's a demon called the Mufrab, which slowly follows you like it follows. And that to look at it makes you go insane. It's very horror-y in a way that I was not expecting from Justice of Kings, but the second book absolutely kicks it up a notch. I do think the first book, by the nature of it being a bit more confined, is a very, very slightly better book, but they are both absolute 5-star experiences.
I mean, based on that description alone, I know that this is a book that I have to read. So
you can read you can read the Justice of Kings in like a day.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can read Justice of Kings in like 2 days. It's like the audiobook's like 13 hours. It's on Spotify as well, so it's included in the Spotify.
Okay.
A lot of my friends, I've been like, read this on Spotify. It is included in the hours. Laura, you're up.
Yeah.
I believe that we only have one left.
No,
two left. Two left, yeah.
I've got my Author of Colour and I've also got my Dragon book. So I'm going to go for Author of Colour, which is The Battle Drum by Sarah El Arifi.
Ooh, yeah. That was on my list for multiple, actually.
Yeah, so it's the second in her The Ending Fire trilogy, which was started with The Final Strife back in 2022.
Got that one.
Which Ross is very helpfully holding up for us. And it's, you know, dynastic, courtly, swashbuckling, red-blooded ruling classes, tyranny, you know, all the good stuff. Yeah, it looks incredible. It's also tagged as LGBT, lesbian, queer, fantasy, fiction. So all the good things.
Yeah, and the author is queer as well, which is so she was on my list.
I could have even used it in the queer category, but
yeah, she was on my list for queer author and author of colour and female author. So I had her on all three. But yeah, this book's meant to be very, very good. I don't know if you guys watch Abby Salter. She's a booktuber from London, and same as you guys, kind of. And she loves.
Same as me.
Yeah, she loves.
Ross is not from London.
Yeah,
she's a big Sarah El Arifi fan. She's pitched this series a few times in her videos.
It does look amazing.
I was looking at my list, going like, I need to read more authors of color, queer authors, female authors, 100%. And I was like, basically all of the 9 picks that I picked as mains and backups, I'm like, I need to read these. So they're all going on the future TBR, I think.
Yeah.
And Ross, you're up. Your last 2 picks.
I think I've got 3 left.
Yeah, I've got my Sanderson as well.
It's just you who has 2 left, Sam.
Yeah, that kind of makes sense, I think.
I know Laura has 2 as well, but I have 3 because I'm just coming around.
Right, yeah, you've got 2, and then you have the final one.
2, and then I've got the final one. Okay. Well, I decided I'm going to pick my 2 weakest ones now. Save my final one, to go out with a bang. So, for Nautical book, this one is borderline sci-fi.
That's allowed, I think. Nautical sci-fi.
I think it's really borderline.
Is it borderline nautical?
No, it is very nautical. It is Whaleful by Daniel Krauss. And this one was very big in my. I booted up Facebook for the first time in many years to join a little group of horror readers, even though I don't really read much horror. And for basically all of them, this was their book of 2023. And Whaleful is basically a modern Jonah and the Whale kind of story, where there's a diver who ends up getting swallowed by a sperm whale and spends the book trying to survive. So horror elements. I think a bit of sci-fi elements in the fact that it's pretty unlikely.
It's tagged as sci-fi on
it's a bit more spec-stick, maybe.
Goodreads, so I think
Yeah.
I will allow it.
Thank you, because I had no other choices. Apart from the one that Laura was talking about earlier, but that would have been really cheap. So yeah, Daniel Kraus.
Neither bothered to just look up on Goodreads Nautical Fantasy 2023.
Well, to be fair, I thought I'd kind of picked this one in the same, within 5 minutes of picking the Britney Spears one as well. So my mind was not necessarily fully embedded in the SFF world. Anyway, from one book that is vaguely nautical to another book that is vaguely nautical, my sci-fi book is The Ferryman by Justin Cronin.
Again, I would say that that's more horror.
It was tagged as sci-fi. And I can tell you that it was about a utopia that is not all that it seems, and about the person, or the titular character, the ferryman, who drives the ferry.
Okay, it's sci-fi. Fine.
And yes,
I've read some Justin Cronin. I read the what was it called? The Passage. It's definitely more horror than it was sci-fi.
This
So
is
You're breaking the rules.
So I told you they're my two weakest choices.
This was nominee for best sci-fi in 2023.
Yeah.
So I think if enough people on Goodreads think it's a sci-fi for it to be in the top 10, it must be sci-fi. And it sounds like kind of how Lost is sci-fi. Do you know what I mean? Where at the start you're like, I'm not sure what genre this show is, and then you're like, oh, this is a sci-fi.
That was my interpretation. Thank you, Sam. It really backed me up there. Thank you. Well, I'm glad those two are out of the way. I was kind of dreading choosing them the whole video. But anyway, I'm going to hand over to Laura for your second penultimate pick.
Okie dokie. I'm going to go for. Did somebody pick a Rebecca Yarros book?
I picked Fourth Wing.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to pick Iron Flame for my dragon book.
Wow.
Smart.
A clear second choice to Fourth Wing.
I'm not. I changed my mind. I'm not picking Iron Flame. I'm picking Shanghai Immortal by A.Y. Chow.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Which could also have been my queer. She could have also have been my queer author. But I decided to put her under my dragon book pick instead.
Yeah.
And it just sounds absolutely dope. Pawned by her mother to the king of hell as a child, Lady Jing is half vampire, half Hu Jing fox spirit, and all sasshole. As the king's ward, she has spent the past 90 years running errands, dodging the taunts of spiteful Hu Li Jing courtiers, and trying to control her explosive temper with varying success.
And there's dragons.
There's dragons in it.
But dragons of the non-Welsh kind.
Non-Welsh dragons, yeah.
Twirly dragons with big whiskers.
Yeah.
Cool.
Shanghai dragons.
Yeah.
It's looks so cool. The author looks so cool as well.
Yeah.
I was reading her biography, and it mentions that she lives with her extremely handsome wife. And I was like, what an amazing way of describing. I hope that I get described as a very handsome wife one day. But yeah, I just thought it sounded really cool. Anyway, that's my dragon book.
So it's me next with my final two picks to close out the list. So I'm going to pick both of these categories are now uncontested, I believe. So this is the one that I was originally the most scared that I would lose all my picks on, which was queer author, because I have been following this author for ages and assumed that they were massive, but turns out maybe they aren't, which is C.L. Clarke, and I've gone for...
So we met C.L. Clarke.
She seems awesome.
Yeah, so we met her. She does seem awesome. Our friend Sarah is like obsessed with her. Do you remember when we were talking in the chat And Ross was like, Laura, name a queer author quick. And I was like, oh, that person that we met at Fantasy in the Court that Sarah loves. That's who I was talking about.
So she released The Faithless in 2023, which is the sequel to her book The Unbroken, which has been on my TBR since I ever heard about it, and I own it on Kindle, but not in physical, obviously. And I will read it. It's very high on the list of things I need to read. But basically, a lot of my channel so far has been like, I'm going to read all the big, massive, classic fantasy books that I never read because I got back into reading 3 years ago. So I haven't had time as much for the newer stuff, which is probably why all of the books I read are by straight white men. But The Faithless is, I'm definitely going to be reading this series. I'll be reading at least book 1. So yeah, looking forward to reading that, to be honest. It's like a desert-esque fantasy. So a few of those popping up nowadays, but I'm excited to read it.
So
And
CL
then-
Clark, when we met her, we were talking to her about like audiobooks and about just writing and publishing. And we asked if she would be willing to come onto our channel once we'd read her books, and she said yes.
Wow, that's really cool.
Right.
I thought she was American. I don't know why.
She is.
Oh,
But she was
she's just
she was
in the UK. Oh,
Yeah.
just for clarify. So is she they pronouns? Is that how she?
I only saw she on her personal website.
Okay.
I did check.
Yeah.
And I think she uses she, they.
Okay.
Well, good to know.
Yeah.
Oh, the cat has started
no.
singing the song of his people.
Come on, Bang. Come join us. No, he's not going to come.
He's not
All
going
right,
to
Sam,
draft any books.
You have a last pick.
Yes, and this is a
Very-
great one. I'm going out with a bang with a book that I gave 5 stars. And for Dragon, I am picking The Prophet of Idan by Philip Chase.
It has dragons in it. Of course
There's a
it does.
dragon on the cover, and the majority of the thrust of the book is basically about how dragons are kind of nuclear weapons.
Wow.
Or that's maybe not the main thrust of the book, but that's how dragons are kind of interpreted in the book.
Yeah.
In that basically one character has control of 8 dragons, and that means that he is essentially unstoppable, unkillable, and is fully taking over the world without any resistance. And the majority of the book is spent on the run. The majority of the book is like going from disaster to disaster, and dragons are at the heart of it in a way that they aren't really in the first one. I think Philip's interpretation of dragons is very good. Hi, Fang. Just generally, I think that the dragons are very cool. And one of the things that I really like about dragons in books is when they are very intimidating. There can be a cat butt in this video. I will not edit that. I will not protect the eyes of my viewers. If a cat butt comes along, they're going to see it.
I'm going to say, Sam, I was thinking that if we weren't going to get put the vote out to your audience for who to pick who wins this, I was almost going to say, why don't you get Philip to choose? Now I'm glad I didn't suggest it, because I feel like he would have extreme levels of bias in this scenario.
Well, he's never anyway, because Sam's his friend. And
Oh,
we've
that's
never
true.
spoken to him.
That's true.
So...
Yeah,
Yeah, Philip. Yeah, come on our channel, Philip. We'll
Yeah.
chat to you. Yeah.
I would
cool.
bet he's very nice, and he's offered to come on my channel multiple times, but I was like, I'll read all of your books first and then we'll chat. So if you want to read any of his books, which are very good, then with Philip was very much the same story as Andrew, where I was like, oh, I guess I'll try this book out. It's on Kindle Unlimited. And then I was like, actually, disappointingly, this book is very good, because I don't like it when people are too talented.
hate it when that happens.
So
Bloody overachievers.
yes, that's it. I picked all 10. I'll at the end, once we've all gone through, we can run through which books we picked for everything.
Yep.
I can't remember.
Okay.
Okay.
Good job, Sam's been taking notes, haven't you, Sam?
Yes.
Laura, what's your
I-
last
Okay,
pick?
my last
2
pick
have
was
noted.
My last pick is my Sanderson pick, which is Yumi and the Nightmare Painter.
Yeah.
Which is told by Hoyd, who is my favourite character in the whole Cosmere. And it is the story of where two people from incredibly different worlds have to compromise and work together to save their worlds from ruin. And just sounds so cool. It was one of the secret projects. Yeah. What more is there to say? It's a Sanderson book. It was one of the secret projects. You know you're going to love it.
I think between us, we picked the 3 best Sanderson books of the year. There were.
I picked my lowest rated Sanderson book of the year as my number one.
Really? So what did you?
I rated
did you
Defiant
read...
better. Yeah.
But what about the Wizard's Guide to?
Oh, I didn't read that.
No.
I had heard it was bad, and I have struggled with humor in books before, so I'm like, and also Sanderson's sense of humor is not my sense of humor. So when he tries to be funny, I'm like, this is annoying, Brandon. So yeah, I think like his comedy character in Stormlight Lift is like my most hated character in all of his books.
It's very, very, very annoying. Yeah.
And so when he came out with a book and he's like, this is my go at Terry Pratchett, I was like, I'm going to sit this one out. I'll give you some money for the other 3, but I'm not reading this.
Love me, coach. Yeah.
But yeah, I did read Defiant as well, which is his YA sci-fi series, and it was really, really good. And it ended. It was like a proper good. All the threads come together, finish the story kind of book. But when the public are voting on it, you want to pick a book that more people liked, and people just didn't love the Skyward series, even though 3 out of 4 of those books are really good. One of them is quite bad.
Okay, it's the last one. This is my last one.
That's it. It's the end.
So, indie published. Obviously, the number one choice. I don't know why neither of you picks this one. Harbinger of Justice by Andrew Watson. I mean, come on. What were you? Are you even trying to win?
Harbinger of Justice, very good book.
Never heard of it. Who wrote that?
But it's very hard for me to put anything up against my number one fantasy book of all time. You
could have put it in fantasy book. You could have put it in fantasy book, Sam.
I could have. Harbinger of Justice might have snuck onto my top 10 if I'd read it last year. I don't know if it will this year, because I'm going to have read like a lot of Wheel of Time books and they're all very good. Although if you're going to pick one book per series, that might change things. Yeah,
we don't play by those rules. No. But this, have read it. Thought it was brilliant. Really, really inventive world building. Fantastic magic system. Memorable characters, and good banter between them. It's a very solid book. And
did it definitely come out last year?
Yeah, it came out last year.
Yeah, it came out in like September, I think. I want to say, like quite close to the end of the year.
So there you go. Those are my choices. That's list. Yeah.
That's it. That's a wrap.
That's the video.
That's it.
Okay, so do you want to run through your lists then, Sam?
Yeah, I'll go first. So for fantasy, I picked Tyranny of Faith by Richard Swan. For sci-fi, I picked Lightbringer by Pierce Brown. For Sanderson, I picked The Sunlit Man by Brandon Sanderson. For indie published, I picked Of War and Ruin, Best Book Ever by Ryan Carhill. For paperback, I picked Ashes of Man by Christopher Rocchio. For female author, I picked Godkiller by Hannah Kaner. For author of colour, I picked Blood Over Brighthaven by M.L. Wang. For queer author, I picked The Faithless by C.L. Clarke. For nautical, I picked The Olympian Affair by Jim Butcher. And for dragon, I picked The Prophet of Adan by Philip Chase.
Can I ask you, Sam, what was the best pick, the best backup that you had that you didn't use?
So I had Tress in most categories, because it fit into a lot. It was a very good book, and it was also nautical. I should have picked it for nautical straight away. That was my big fail. Although you picked it first round, didn't you? So I didn't have the chance. My best backup books, Justice of Kings was in my paperback as a backup. So was The Lost Metal. I thought that would have maybe got me some points from the old Cosmere fans. I had Sea of Tranquility as well in paperback. I had The Ice by Ryan Cahill, the novella, in Dragon, because that entire book is about going to get a dragon egg. I say book. It is a novella. You can read it in like 4 hours, but it's very good. It's like basically a party of 60 warriors turn up on a frozen continent, and the elements and the horror of this place basically wickers them down to very, very few people. And it has a POV of a character that you've never got a POV from before, so it's a really good book in the series. I had The Bone Shard War by Andrea Stewart for author of colour as well, and Untethered Sky by Fonda Lee. I decided against. I had Fonda Lee's Untethered Sky as my number one pick for author of colour, but then what happened was I remembered that a lot of people didn't like it, so I was like, I haven't read it and people don't love it, so probably shouldn't pick it. Oh, and one that I don't think anyone mentioned that I really liked was The Shadow Cabinet by Juno Dawson as my queer author pick. Because they're trans.
I saw that one on Lots of Bliss when I was researching. Actually, I should have picked it, but never mind.
Yeah, it seemed really interesting, but the one struggle that I had was I was like, I don't want to pick too many book twos, because most of my list was book twos until
I was finding that as well.
And while people can be like, well, I enjoyed book one, so I'll probably enjoy that. I didn't want to put too many in there. I mean, my number one self-pub could also have been my number one fantasy, to be fair, of War and Ruin. That one was that one's a book 3. And you also have to read 2 novellas. Wait, 2 novellas, or is it 3 novellas? No, it's just 2 novellas.
May I ask, Laura?
Yes.
What was your 10? And I'm intrigued to know some good ones that you missed as well.
Okay, so my pick for fantasy was The Will of the Many by James Islington.
Yeah.
My sci-fi was System Collapse by Martha Wells. My Sanderson was Yumi and the Nightmare Painter. My indie pub was Thrill Switch by Tim Hawkin.
That sounds great.
Sounds really dope. That was the Ready Player One crossed with Silence of the Lambs.
Hello, this is Laura from the future. Apparently, the book that I picked for this category was actually released in 2022. My bad. Instead, I'd like to pick Gene Fire by James Flanagan, which is a near-future novel in which a PhD student finds a warning from the future written in a child's DNA.
My paperback release was The Hunger of the Gods, John Gwynne. My female author was Translation State by Anne Leckie. My author of colour was The Battle Drum by Sarah L. Arifi. My queer author was I Keep My Exoskeletons to Myself by Marissa Crane, which again sounds so cool. And I'm going to go and buy it as soon as we finish this call because it just sounds amazing. My nautical book, and I'm the only one, can I point out, that actually had a good nautical book.
Whaleful, come on.
An actual good nautical book that was definitely nautical and definitely.
Well, I would say mine's elevated nautical. Literally.
So my nautical book was The Adventures of Amina al-Sirafi.
The ironic thing is that Laura hates nautical books.
I hate boats. I hate boats.
Yet she picks the strongest choice.
Undisputably the best nautical book.
I would agree. Yeah, I think that was the best. Well, actually, Tress is the best nautical book, but Adventures of Amina al-Sirafi was my second choice.
And then my dragon book was Shanghai Immortal by A.Y. Chow.
A lot of really interesting picks there.
Yeah.
Um,
Any strong backups?
Yeah, so I had a really cool sounding one called The Archive Undying by Emma Miko Candon under my queer author.
I also had researched that, but decided not to add it to the list.
It sounds so cool though, doesn't it?
It does, yeah.
It's like a
it sounds really cool.
dystopian future with like malevolent AIs and
Ooh.
it's
But the malevolent AIs are like cities that are giant robots that people live in, and then when the AI dies, the city dies, including all the people that live in it, and then the robot body goes rogue.
yeah.
Do they have a voice that's suspiciously close to Scarlett Johansson's?
I had another cool one that I was very close to using for author of colour and could also have been used for queer author, which was The Saint of Bright Doors by Vajra Chandra Sekira.
Heard of that one as well.
You'll have to forgive me if you're watching, Vajra, if I've mispronounced your name. I tried. But your book sounds incredible, and it's another one that I'm going to rush off and buy as soon as I finish this call because it sounds amazing.
So, Ross, what did you pick? What were your backups?
Yeah. So, my fantasy book was House of Open Wounds by Adrian Tchaikovsky. My sci-fi book was The Ferryman by Justin Cronin. My Sanderson book, wisely picked first, was Trust of the Emerald Sea by Brandon Sanderson. My indie published book was Harbinger of Justice by Andrew Watson. Paperback release, Sea of Tranquility by Emily St. John Mandel. My female author was Fourth Wing, shortly following The Woman in Me by Britney Spears. My author in colour was Chain Gang All Stars by Nana Kwame Adjei-Brenyah. My queer author was In the Lives of Puppets by TJ Klune. Nautical book was Whale Fall by Daniel Kraus. And my dragon book was Dragonfired by J. Zachary Pike. I didn't have many very strong choices that I left on the table. I kind of went for some outliers that I figured I wouldn't have to come up with backups for. But ones that were in the back pocket were for example, on sci-fi and indie was The Forsaken Planet by Brian Wilson.
I thought that was a 2024 release.
Well, I've got it here in 2023, so it came up when I searched 2023. So maybe it was incorrect data on hardcover, but I had it on 2023. I would say my other strong choice, which I could have gone for paperback release, is only tangentially related to fantasy, but Terry Pratchett, A Life with Footnotes, the official biography by Rob Wilkins, which made me cry. So one of the few books that has managed to do that, so I think that counts. I had C.L. Clarke as well under queer author, obviously, and I had Lightbringer, although I was kind of hesitant to choose it because I didn't like Red Rising. Anyway, those were my choices. I think in the end, I'm very proud of my list.
I think we've all come up with lists that if you were like, take this list of Desert Island books somewhere and read it, I would not be upset with any of the lists. I think Laura's might be the most interesting.
Does that mean I win?
If I was picking a winner and I couldn't pick myself, I think I think that was a bit too low, too high. Yeah, I think if I was picking a winner and I couldn't pick myself, I'd probably pick yours. And also, I've read a lot of the books on my list, and you didn't try and draft Britney Spears.
It doesn't mean you win. It means that you win Sam's vote, but the vote goes to the public, and we want to know. We want to know who wins.
Yes.
Right? Because if I don't win, then I'm going to be sad forever.
So if you'd like Ross to be sad forever, keep an eye out on the YouTube poll. There'll be a poll on my community tab, and if I remember, I will try and link it here. I'll also put polls in Andrew Watson's Discord, which I'm quite active in, and on Twitter, on my Twitter account, which is where I do most of my book talking stuff. So if you would like to vote those...
Cute cat.
Yes. There is a cute cat. So if you'd like to vote, you can make your vote known on any of those 3 platforms. All of the votes will be counted. If you want to vote 3 times, you can, but that is cheating.
Am I allowed to vote?
You are allowed to vote.
Yeah. Politicians vote for themselves, don't they?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
So yes, if you would like to tell us who you thought won, please make sure that you vote. If you have enjoyed this format, please let me know. Drop down in the comments and say, Sam, this was a great video. I loved it. Or something to that effect. If you'd like to do your own little draft and tell us what your top 10 books would be in the categories, then please feel free to, again, drop that down in the comments. And I would like to make this kind of like a series almost, where I do this more often. So if you are interested in seeing some other booktubers turn up here, then tag them down below in the comments as well. I'm sure that'll be fun. And please like this video if you liked it, and if you made it all the way here, I'm sure you have. Please follow the guys over at Hardy's Books, although they don't need the subscribers anymore because they've got
we got
more than double what I have.
Yes, we do. We do. If you would like to support our channel, you can find us at Hardy's Books on Instagram. We are Hardy's Books on YouTube. I'm sure Sam will pop a link in the video description. Where else can they find us, babe?
They can head to hardysbooks.co.uk, where we have a number of exciting rare books on sale. So go and buy a book, and go and subscribe, something like that.
And if you buy a book, then you're putting directly food into Fang's mouth. So
Yeah.
just an FYI. And
Keep
if you
them in
don't
the
buy a
life-
book, you're taking it out.
Yeah. Help us keep Fang in the lifestyle he's become accustomed.
Yeah, which seems to be very accustomed to.
Highly organic chicken and fish and things.
The most expensive cat food I have ever seen in my life.
Please
So-
donate now.
And as always, my final call is to subscribe to my channel as well. It would be great to have you here as part of this tiny little community that we're building, and we're on the road to 1,000. We've now passed 600, which is pretty exciting, and I am hoping that that number keeps going up, because if it goes down, it makes me sad.
Because you are the hardest working booktuber I know.
Hardest is
And
working.
You deserve all the subs.
It's all about quantity, everyone, not quality. Thanks so much for watching, and I will speak to you guys tomorrow.